Hello everybody and welcome back to another not applicable Formula 1 video. I hope that you're well. I hope you're ready and raring to talk about Alfa Romeo. They're the second livery dropped. An actual Formula 1 car has been seen. I don't think it's going to look exactly like this when it gets to the track in Bahrain, but it will look something at least similar to this. The Red Bull, the Williams, the Haas, they're complete concept cars, whereas this Alfa Romeo that was dropped today has been an actual closer look at a Formula 1 car in 2023. Not only that, but we're going to talk about Alfa Romeo moving forward. Obviously, they're in massive transition. They've got to be Sauber for a couple of years. They've got Audi coming in 2026. Bottas and Zhou, two drivers that are also kind of in limbo in terms of their careers. Let's kind of delve into it a little bit. First and foremost, let's have a little look at the car itself, right? Alfa Romeo show off their 2023 CF43 car, and it is a striking new livery for the Alfa Romeo team. They've gotten rid of the white. They've replaced it with the black. Lots of people talking about the possible weight saving that you have from changing from white to black, and the fact that actually black just means no paint on this Formula 1 car. And I think we're going to see quite a few teams kind of move in that direction. The Haas car also going back to black for them. Haven't been black since 2019, Haas, and now they're suddenly moving back to a predominantly black livery. Then we're going to see this from a few teams, but I actually really like the look of this car. I think it's aggressive looking, and it's definitely a bit of a combination of Ferrari and Red Bull. It's like the Ferrari car from last year and the Red Bull car from last year had a baby, because it's got the aggressive side pods that we see from the Red Bull car. You know, it's got that kind of lean bottleneck towards the back, but also then it's got the cooling louvres and the high floor that we see from the likes of the Ferrari car, as well as the letterbox inlets that are more Ferrari than Red Bull. So it's kind of like they've tried to take the best of both worlds. They've been like, you know what, two cars were good last year? Ferrari was good. Red Bull was good. Ferrari were a little bit inconsistent. Red Bull kind of worked more often. Let's just take the best bits of both and kind of jumble them into this Alfa Romeo car. And you know what? Formula 1 works like that. If you can get performance from looking at other people's cars and taking what you're allowed to take, I think is the thing. You're allowed to take various bits and pieces. They haven't copied completely, but they've taken inspiration. Let's say inspiration from both Ferrari and Red Bull moving into this year's car. And the reason they're taking this inspiration is because they're chasing, obviously, better than 6th in the 2023 season, which would be absolutely phenomenal if Alfa Romeo can get higher than 6th place in the constructor standings. But they want to get next level performance in 2023. They've obviously still a Ferrari-powered team. They're taking the Ferrari engine, the Ferrari gearbox, but they've changed a few bits and pieces around, like the actual housing for the gearbox. They've completely changed, and they're not taking Ferrari's housing. They are instead designing their own for this Alfa Romeo car, which kind of got me thinking. I wasn't expecting this much change from Alfa Romeo. I was kind of expecting a little bit of a limbo season. You know, Alfa Romeo are leaving at the end of the 2023 season, so the funding from the Alfa Romeo side of things is definitely going to slowly drip away over the course of the season. I know it's always been a Sauber car, just with an Alfa Romeo livery, effectively. You know, Sauber have always been designing the car. It's not like Ferrari or Mercedes or even Red Bull, where they're designing a lot of the car themselves. Is Sauber designed, and Alfa Romeo are effectively just a title sponsor for the car. But Sauber will want to keep improving, even though the Alfa Romeo money is not going to be there yet. Then obviously people argue, well, they're just obviously incorporating the Audi money a little bit early, but they're not allowed to do that. Audi are not allowed to come in until 2026, and Audi, even though they started hiring people that are going to be working in and around Sauber, they're technically not still part of this Formula 1 team yet. So Sauber are in a little bit of limbo. They're losing out on Alfa Romeo's money. They've got to keep things ticking over for a couple of years. They've got people like Seidel and Vasseur swapping places, which as a McLaren fan, I'm absolutely gutted about, by the way. I love Seidel. I think he was exceptionally good for that McLaren team. And I think if you were building a brand new franchise in Formula 1, outside of, you know, your Toto Wolffs, your Christian Horners, who you're not going to be able to convince, I think he was the best pick that Audi could have got. I know that Vasseur has gone out of the door. Vasseur's obviously gone to Ferrari. That is a huge upgrade for him. Whether or not Alfa Romeo are going to be in this transitional period out of Vasseur, in with Seidel. I know that Seidel actually isn't the team principal for the 2023 season. They've got Aluni Bravi coming in to kind of oversee Formula 1 side of things, and I think it's just a weird place for Sauber to be in. The fact that they do want to improve on that 6th place in the Constructors' Championship whilst letting Alfa Romeo leave and Audi coming in. They don't want to move too far away from what Audi are going for in the future, but they also don't want to, you know, disrespect Alfa Romeo that have helped them out so much over the last few seasons and have helped them improve. Like the Alfa Romeo 6th place that they got last season was an exceptionally good season for the Sauber team, which does also come down to the drivers, to be fair to them. They were very good over the 2022 season, in my opinion. I think Valtteri Bottas, that move over from Mercedes, could have been seen as a little bit of a downgrade, but I think he did actually really well. And he talked about moving into this season what he kind of wants from the Alfa Romeo setup. He said better consistency, more points, and obviously better results. You know, he's a racing driver at the end of the day. He just wants points on the board, but I do agree with him when it comes to better consistency when it comes to Alfa Romeo car. If you look at Valtteri Bottas' season, came out of the blocks like an absolute bullet. And we were talking about him fighting with the Mercedes cars for the first 5-6 races of the season. Then it just kind of curtailed off completely. Then he kind of came back towards the rear end of the season, had so many DNFs over the course of the year as well. And I think that's the main thing for me when it comes to Alfa Romeo. Bottas says more consistency. I see that as more reliability. I think they need a car that just does actually finish some races. Zhou Guanyu in particular, it just felt like every single time he was close to picking up a points finish or close to doing something a little bit special in that Alfa Romeo car, the opportunity was snatched away from him. On top of that, the car had its ups and downs over the course of the season as well in terms of pace. As I said, it started off electric. Then as everybody else developed, it felt like Alfa Romeo kind of stood still. And therefore, as they stood still, people started overtaking them. I think you could say the Alpine car got quicker than them over the course of the season. The Aston Martin car got quicker than them over the course of the season. Haas was starting to battle with them a little bit more often. Even the AlphaTauri at points looked like the better overall package at some of the races over the course of the season. I think that's the thing, right? Bottas saying consistency. You can read that as reliability. You can also read that as the fact that the Alfa Romeo car was suited to some tracks exceptionally well and was absolutely appalling in some other tracks. Like you look at Mexico, Valtteri Bottas didn't just bring out the performance of his life when it came to Mexico. It was a very good drive from the Finn, but also that car just suited that track exceptionally well, and it didn't suit a lot of the other tracks at all. Which then leads us to Zhou Guanyu, who I touched upon a little bit, but I think was really, really good in his first rookie season in Formula One. I think he overperformed expectation. A lot of people coming into the season were like talking about Zhou not being worthy of that seat. I think there's more pressure now, though. And I think there's more pressure not just because he is in that seat for the second year, but because of the Audi links that are coming in. Because there's the likes of Théo Pourchaire just behind him. Mick Schumacher is now out of a Formula One seat, but is still in the periphery at Mercedes. You know, you've got other really young drivers coming through and showing that they are probably wanting a Formula One seat in the future. And therefore, for Zhou to hold on to that seat through the transitional period of Sauber taking over for a couple of years and then being without this kind of main title sponsor, manufacturing sponsor, then Audi coming in as well. I think Audi will want to imprint on the team a little bit like we saw Aston Martin come in, change things up a little bit. We saw Alpine coming, change things up a little bit. I think we'll see Audi do the same thing. Audi will want to come in. They'll almost want to have their driver. And Zhou, I think, is the one that you maybe would see move on. Valtteri Bottas obviously getting older and older and older. I don't think he's going to retire within the next 3 years, though. He's talked about wanting more understanding of where he's at with the team, and he wants to have a little bit of a longer contract, I think, with the team, especially because he now knows that Audi are coming in. I think Valtteri Bottas basically wants to guarantee himself at least 1 year at Audi to show what he can do in that brand new setup with that brand new car. But Zhou isn't in that situation where he can kind of demand that. He needs to put himself in that situation where he can demand that. A second season where he continually shows that he's good enough. I think, you know, he's not bad, but also maybe not the driver that Audi want to build their franchise around is probably the problem that he will have going forward. Overall, though, if we look at it, and I'll just pop up the Constructors' Championship here for us to have a look at. If you look at Alfa Romeo there, 6th place, 55 points. Valtteri Bottas picking up the majority of that, with Zhou, obviously, a few points performances here and there. Obviously got points on his debut, which really made him stand out. But I think if you look at that 55 points compared to the Aston Martin's 55 points, if you look at which team made the improvements over the course of the 2022 season, you'd say that Aston Martin kind of clawed their way back up, whereas Alfa Romeo maybe a little bit lucky to hold on to that 55 points in that 6th place finish. Valtteri Bottas needed a couple of points finishes towards the end of the season to kind of scramble that 55 points together. If Alfa Romeo are looking to improve, I don't see where that comes from. Obviously, they're nowhere near the top 3. I think Alpine and McLaren are way too clear at this point, over 100 points clear of Alfa Romeo. And I think, as I said, Aston Martin, with Fernando Alonso coming in, I think look better as an overall package. And in fact, I actually quite like Haas as an overall package this season. I think they've taken steps in the right direction, and I think Nico Hülkenberg is going to be solid. Not as good as Kevin Magnussen, maybe a just a little bit better than Mick Schumacher in terms of points. And then again, you're looking at Alfa Romeo and Haas battling it out in there. And then moving forward into the Sauber era and then into the Audi era, I think that's when they start to look at the likes of Alpine, McLaren, Aston Martin looking like they're going to improve, as I said. Then they try and look at that. I think it's the next generation for Audi. And I feel like I've said that with a lot of the car launches, apart from Red Bull. I've said Williams need to look at 2026. Haas are kind of building towards this next generation as well. But I think that's where a lot of these backmarker cars are, these kind of lower midfield pack cars are. They just don't have the infrastructure right now to really battle with those cars. Because of the cost cap and because the cost cap is brand new into Formula One as well, I think when Audi do come in, they've got that infrastructure behind them and they can get right to the cost cap every single year. Then they can start to progress up the grid a little bit more. But at this point in time, Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, Alpine just have too much of a head start on those guys in that sort of second half of the pack for me. I think basically what Alfa Romeo need to do this season is not look like they're waiting for Audi to come in. I know that they are. They definitely are in this transitional period where already they're hiring people under the Audi name and they're already putting in place the structure that they're going to have within the team for Audi. But they kind of don't want to be looking like they're just waiting 3 years, right? You still want to be showing that you're making progress. And Sauber, because they are still going to be looking at the design of the car and the aerodynamics of it, yes, the Audi is going to come in as the team name and the power unit, but Sauber are still going to be doing like the behind the scenes work, the kind of stuff that doesn't get talked about maybe as much as it should do in Formula One. And therefore they just don't want to be left waiting. They want to continue to make progress. They want to continue to use that link with Ferrari, use that link with Haas if they can as well, build up that infrastructure between the Ferrari powered teams. And then when Audi comes in and they kind of kick the bucket with Ferrari and they move over to their own power unit, they've still got that ready and raring to go. They've still got that car that is built to their specification that they can then build the Audi engine off of, rather than Audi coming in and being like, this is our engine, this is what we've got, change the entire car now. I think Sauber have to kind of battle themselves into that position where they can keep what they've been working on. But I'd love to know what you think in the comments down below. Can Alfa Romeo do any better than 6th this season? Can they do it any better than 7th this season? I think they're in and around that 7th place battle for me personally, but I'd love to know where you think they'll be. And also I'd love to know about Zhou Guanyu from your opinion. I think Valtteri Bottas is fairly safe. Zhou Guanyu, going into 2024, do Sauber give him an extension in his contract? What does he have to prove over the course of this season to get that extension in Formula One and stay for that 3rd season in Formula One? As I said, I'd love to know what you think in the comments down below. Whilst you're down there, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see you next time.